Good evening, and thanks for having me, and thanks for participating in the process. You are what make America great, the people who are willing to take the time and come out and listen to what us candidates have to say and make a decision. You are the dream of every candidate, as an informed electorate. I want to thank you very much for coming out. Before I hit the questions, I'm going to hit them relatively fast so I can answer your questions, and if you want to follow up on how I've answered any of the prepared questions, I will. Let me tell you a little bit about myself first. I'm a native Corpus Christian. I was born in Spawn Hospital in 1961. I grew up here. I went off to college at the University of Texas and then law school at St. Mary's University in San Antonio. Other than being in school, about the only time I was away from here was in 4th grade when my mom was involved in an ill-fated marriage that didn't last very long. I got into this race at the last minute because I took a look at the other candidates and didn't think they could win. I figured my background as a radio talk show host. I was a co-host with Jim Lago on KKTX for quite some time. My background as a small business owner of a computer company, and my training as a lawyer would give me the skills necessary to beat Solomon Ortiz and be an effective representative for, first, the United States of America, and second, our district here in South Texas. But I'm going to Washington with what's best for the country in mind. I'm not going up there to see how much pork I can bring back for us down here. Fortunately, we're lucky enough that we're in a district that's critical to the country, and most of what we get from the federal government comes from our military, and we're the perfect location for Navy training, lots of open airspace, lots of warm water, and we've got a really great crew working on helicopters out there. So what's best for the country, a lot of times is going to be what's best for us. But something in some pork barrel projects, I'm not going to be a big fan of. So let me hit these questions. I'm over 40, so I need the Dr. Eckert's glasses. One of the first question, for those of you who don't have it, immigration reform is a hot topic that Democrats believe is a strong point for them and a fault. Oh, come on, it's a strong point for the Republicans. If you're elected to Congress, how will you best represent the diverse population of District 27 on that issue? The immigration reform is critical not only to national security, but to the economy. We live in the greatest country in the world, and we've got people who will float over here on tires from Cuba, who will risk their lives basically walking the entire length of District 27 from the Rio Grande Valley to Corpus Christi and northward. We've got people from China who will lock themselves into container ships to get over here just to make a better life for themselves and live the American dream. But what we've got is an outdated, antiquated immigration system that is so complex and takes so long to get over here that it encourages people to break the law. And this was a country built on immigrants, and you and I are getting older, and we're going to need some young people and some immigrants to take care of us when we get older. We need to simplify the immigration process where once you've landed a job in the United States, which is easy to do now on the internet, there's a streamlined process for getting into the U.S. where you ought to be able to get in a couple of weeks with a background check. Most of this can be done on the internet. Then we shut down the borders because you don't have this cockamamie excuse, well, these people are just coming over because they're trying to make a better life for themselves. You can get in legally now, you can get in easily because we simplified the government regulation and got the government out of there. So we shut the border down because then we know everybody coming across that border means us harm. They're either trying to poison our children with drugs or they're trying to blow us up as terrorists. So shut down the border and protect it. Now, you've got a boatload of people who are already here and they've broken the law. What do we do with the millions of immigrants we have in this country? Well, my solution is we can't give them amnesty because that sends the wrong message. I mean, we can't have the first act you have coming into this country being breaking the law. I think the easiest solution to this is they apply just like everybody else, but they've got to go home to do it. Now, I realize a lot of people might want to say, lock them up, deport them, find some way to punish them. A lot of these people have jobs, have families, and are a vital part of our economy. We can't let them off scot-free, but you know what? We didn't catch them. If they want to start over from the beginning and in line with everybody else who's trying to do it legally, just let them in the process. That's the best solution I have. Maybe we could come up with some sort of misdemeanor violation, community service, or something like that, but there's just, common sense dictates there's no way to lock them all up. And I'm a common sense candidate. I'm trying to find the best solution to some very complicated problems. Okay. Next question: what is the role of the Federal Reserve, and what is its current effect on our economy? You know, the Federal Reserve is basically the nation's bank. I'm not here to be a history teacher. Congress was granted the power to coin money in the Constitution, and they've delegated that authority to the Fed. Now, the problem with the Fed is we don't really know what they're doing. There's not a whole lot of transparency there. It takes a long time to find out, you know, what's going on. So we need to have a good look inside the Fed, but I don't think we could turn running the economy back over to Congress and the political process. It becomes too political and it takes too long. The Fed has got to be in a position to react quickly with the economy. Unfortunately, I don't like what the Fed has done recently, but they probably saved our country from the excesses of the Carter administration when we went out and loaned money to people who couldn't pay it back. I think we may have been days away from the economy crashing. The Fed ginned up the presses and printed up some money and saved the economy. Unfortunately, now we've got way too much money in circulation. These bailouts of the companies were probably a bad idea. The Fed saved the banks. I'm okay with that. Most of the banks have paid back the money now. But what we need to do now is, well, we've got all this money printed. What are we going to do with it? That's what the tax and spend liberals and Democrats in Washington are saying. I'm saying we do like a private company. We shred it. We buy back our own stock and give our money back some value. So the Fed, we need a little more oversight of, but unfortunately they're a necessary evil in our lives. Next question: greatest security concern for America, and what would you do? The economy is our biggest security concern, and energy is our biggest security concern. We're reliant on foreign countries for our energy, and our economy is in trouble. We can self-destruct internally. We've got to simplify government, lower taxes, and get our economy back on track. We have got to we've got to become energy independent, so we don't have to buy all this foreign oil, a lot of the money of which goes back into countries that don't like us very much and fund terrorists who are out to kill us. We have got to fund heavily our intelligence community, so reinvest in human intelligence assets and use the latest and greatest technology to protect this country, find out what's going to happen before it happens, and stop it. And then we need to empower the men and women in our military to get the job done. We need to get rid of all these politically correct rules of engagement, let our military take the gloves off and get the job done. Political correctness, another big problem. Political correctness in the military, huge problem. Okay, current opinion, or opinion of the current system of taxation, and how would you change it? Our tax system, like everything in government, is way too complex. There are rows and rows of books in the law library, if such things still exist. It's all on computer now, dealing with nothing but taxes. The income tax system as we have it is way, way too complicated. So there are a couple of options we have for this. There is a fair tax and a flat tax. Either one of those works for me. I personally think that a flat rate income tax that everybody pays is a better solution, but I'm certainly not opposed to looking at a national sales tax. The government has used the tax system as incentives to get people to do and not do all sorts of things, and there are all these loopholes. Let's just keep it simple, stupid, and we pay a small percentage of everything we own. It's about skin in the game, and we'll talk about that with health insurance. People, as a computer consultant, we gave away websites to nonprofits, and those were our worst clients ever because they put no value on it. The same thing is true for people who pay nothing for the government. They say, well, you know, it's free, it's no value. If you're paying some tax, it doesn't matter how much, you suddenly become a whole lot more interested in tax. So everybody needs to be paying tax, flat tax, or a national sales tax. Either one works for me. Federal government's role in private business is we need to create an environment that's conducive to business, small business, and entrepreneurship. That means lower taxes, a lot less federal regulation, and a court and jury system that gives predictable results so businesses can plan and not be overwhelmed by regulation. They can plan and not be concerned about tort rewards.